Australia's property market is heating up. 3,800 properties were up for sale over the weekend and 84% were sold. Let's get the latest from Peter Switzer now, founder of the Switzer Report. Pete, where does this end?
It's quite extraordinary, Pete. There are some pretty, well-known commentators. For example, Charles Tarby from Century 21. He's starting to see in some suburbs agents starting to sell before auction. He thinks that's often an early sign that some of the heat's coming out of the market. But then we saw what happened over the weekend. Quite extraordinary. I think Sydney was 87% clearance rate, Canberra 86, Melbourne 84, and nationally the number was huge. So I just think that the only way you're going to see this slow down is either the Reserve Bank raises interest rates, which it won't do. It's promised not to do that, or you're going to start requiring APRA to come in and basically tell the lenders to restrict the lending. The Kiwis have gone absolutely mad because over there, 40% of sales in New Zealand were for investors. And so they've basically killed negative gearing over the next 3 or 4 years. It's going to be basically phased out. And also, you have to hold a property for 10 years to avoid a capital gains tax. So lots of restrictions could be put in place. And also in New Zealand, you have to have basically 40% deposit before you can get a loan. So they're really going hard over there, but their problem is slightly worse than us.
I remember this conversation actually wasn't that long ago, Pete, when the last time the housing market, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, were heating up. People were wondering when it was going to end, and the answer would usually be, well, it's just going to plateau. It will never go backwards, but it'll just plateau. And here we are, a year later, and we're having that conversation again. Do you ever see it going backwards, or will it just plateau again eventually?
There will be a time where maybe the national prices could plateau, but various suburbs will come off the boil. There's some suburbs rocket up, but then they rocket down whenever the market starts to get scared. And there will be restrictions placed on borrowers and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think that APRA will interfere with this economic boom right now, because you've got JobKeeper coming off now. It's disappeared. So I made this point on radio recently. It's like the movie The Castle. It's the vibe, and they're going to keep this vibe going.
I still haven't seen The Castle, Pete. I still haven't seen it.
It's one of the greatest films of all time. But it's the vibe that's going to be really important for keeping this economy going. And so they won't interfere with this for a while, but eventually there will be some action.
Okay, let's get on to dividend checks, because they are coming this week, Pete. How big are they, and what effects are they going to have?
Yeah, $6 billion this week going into the hands of shareholders. But by the way, last week was $12 billion. So $18 billion over 2 weeks. Now, and this is really interesting, Peter, I hadn't really thought about this, but a lot of people have DRPs, dividend reinvestment plans. So that means that the company itself will buy more of its stock on behalf of its shareholders. So it's got to be good for stocks. We saw the Dow hit record highs over the weekend. So I'm expecting a pretty good week for the stock market with all these dividend checks coming in. But also, some people will actually receive the dividends into their bank accounts. And I think a lot of retail stuff will be bought. And I think because the economy is becoming more normalised, services will be bought. Airline tickets to interstate, holiday services, all that sort of stuff. So this is going to be another good thing. And I've got to throw in, Pete, we've now had 2 quarters in a row of 3% growth or more. And this has never happened. Since records were taken since 1959, Australia has never had 2 consecutive quarters over 3%.
Yeah.
And that shows you how strong the economy is right now.
And the Treasurer on about half an hour or so ago, and he did mention that despite the fact that there's going to be an increase in unemployment, 150,000 odd jobs might be lost, it's going to continue ultimately to trend downwards, and that's going to continue to be obviously a good thing for our economy in the long run.